Good afternoon. This is Steve Ramona with Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. And I'm excited today because I'm a big sports fan. My uncle actually played for the New York Giants, so I've got an intimate NFL background through my uncle back in the late 50s. But I've got one of my favorite people in sports, and I could say it with all my heart, is Leigh. Leigh, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
You've got this great career going. You've done some great things, but you really served a lot of people. Why did you get started in the sports agent industry?
There really wasn't an industry when I began. It was 1975. I was a dorm counselor going to law school at Berkeley, and they put me in an undergrad dorm, and they moved the freshman football team into the dorm, and one of the students was the quarterback, Steve Bartkowski, and he became the very first pick in the first round of the NFL draft in 1975 and asked me to represent him. That was a point at which teams had no obligation to deal with agents. They could just slam the phone down and say, we don't need to talk to you. So I was raised by a father with two core values. One was treasure relationships, especially family. And the second was to try to make a positive impact in the world and help people who were having a hard time or try to enhance the quality of life for people. So when I got back to Atlanta, the fervor was so high for the signing of Bartkowski that I saw that the athletes were the movie stars and the athletes were the celebrities in cities across the country. And I thought, if they would go back and retrace their roots and go to the high school community that helped shape them and set up a scholarship fund or a boys and girls club relationship or work for a church, they could lay down roots and impact that community. And at the collegiate community, I asked athletes to think about going back to their universities, bonding with the alums who are great mentors. And so Troy Aikman set up a scholarship fund, endowed a full scholarship fund at UCLA. And then at the professional level, we asked that the athletes do charitable foundations and that they put on an advisory board to leading business figures, political figures, and community leaders to help promote the program. And so that's like the running back work done, putting the 200th single mother and her family in the first home they'll ever own by making a down payment and moving them in. Or it could be Patrick Mahomes with his 15 and the Mahomies helping at-risk kids and kids in hospitals. So the whole concept of athletes making an impact, and that my real impact was stimulating the best in young men and helping them, but also in what we could do together to deal with problems in the world became the overarching philosophy, and that was 50 years ago.
Well, it's interesting because you kind of started the influencer movement we hear today on social media. You turn your athletes, because we see on TV, Leigh Steinberg, help, Patrick get this contract, Troy Aikman get this contract, which I know it's much more. And that's what you're saying. It's much more than the money.
The real key in our field is listening. It's, can you draw out another human being, cut below the surface, peel back the layers of the onion, and try to know the deepest anxieties and fears and greatest hopes and dreams of another person. If you can put yourself in their heart and mind and see the world the way they see it, then you can navigate your life. So part of the key was getting men to drop their defenses and tell me what really was in their heart, as opposed to the way men usually relate to each other, which is someone has stage 4 cancer, you run into them, ask them how they're doing. Oh, great, right? So it's being able to bond with people and then sketch out a lifetime plan, which helps them go into getting drafted as high as possible, having a successful career, being a role model, and then having a satisfying and fulfilling second career.
So it's interesting. You take him from the start almost at the finish. Do you still work with Troy and Warwick and these guys have retired?
Little bit, but
Yeah.
we may have specialized agents or helpers. But the whole point is with a Troy Aikman, would he want to do broadcast? And so that's having him do NFL Europe before he ever retired, and it's setting the foundation. Or let's take the area you're from. When I had 49ers, I would ask them, can you think of any businesses proximate to Santa Clara where you train? Well, just a big venture capital community and high tech. So Brent Jones, the retired tight end, I would say, why don't you go out and network and try to meet as many people as you can? And the charity helped with that. And it's not by chance that both Brent Jones, the tight end, and Steve Young, the quarterback, have multi-billion-dollar hedge funds.
So it's amazing to me what you've done is you have them reach out, be themselves. But see, the other challenge I see is athletes, and I hear all the time stories, they get these big contracts and you hear the navigate, not the money mostly, but life, and how to get through life, correct?
So it's all about understanding what skills an athlete has other than athletic ones. So the first time someone walks in my office, I'll ask them, if you couldn't play football or baseball or basketball tomorrow for whatever reason, what else excites you in the world? Is it making a positive difference? Is it coaching? Is it being media? 3 of my players are minority owners of NFL teams. So it's this generation as political figures, business leaders, charitable leaders, media figures. They've got a whole world open to them, and they have brand. For example, 81 of the top 100 television shows last year on nighttime were NFL nighttime football. So it's not just the most popular sport, it's the most popular television show and the most popular form of entertainment. So it thrusts these sports into everyone's living room larger than life. And today, everything is about presence on social platforms. How many followers does someone have on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn? And those are the markers that motivate whether they can monetize that and what that brand distinctly means. And you see what they're doing on college campuses with NILs.
Yeah, NILs are a big problem. We'll get into that. That's a whole other show right there. I went through your group of athletes you work with. It seems like all of them are successful, even after their careers. Is because, I know you're going to take all the credit, but some of the stuff that you set up, is that the reason why?
It's getting someone to focus on what their priorities are. So let's take short-term economic gain as one priority, long-term economic security, spiritual considerations, family considerations, geography, the weather, the lifestyle, high profile, making a difference. So it's getting into the head, and for an athlete, being on a winning team, the quality coaching, the system that they use, the supporting cast. So that constellation of values is going to fit differently into different people's lives. My challenge is to understand that and then help chart a path. But let's make no secret, we profile athletes off a college campus, looking for those that have a social conscience, looking for those who are self-starters. So without me, they'd be very successful.
And that's great to hear, because my next thought is, when you became really popular and everybody heard about Leigh Steinberg, when the athletes came to you and didn't have the social conscience and these qualities, you obviously said no. I don't know how you would do it, but that was important to you, right? Not to take every athlete.
It's, Steve, by laying out that philosophy,
Yeah,
and by profiling, trying to research the parents. In other words, if I see an athlete who coaches tell me has a pristine, impeccable work ethic, or I discover they did a mission or a church visit to Puerto Rico, or helped out in the inner city as a college athlete, then that's someone that you want to cut up part of your life and share it with.
yeah, that's great. I love hearing that, because that's servant. When you say no to an athlete, it's like, I can't help you, find somebody else. It doesn't help the athlete or you. So it's on both sides, right?
I'm trying to take on problems like bullying, where you have these thousands of kids that whole self-confidence is broken in middle school or high school. So if we take older athletes, pros, college, and have them tell high school athletes, you can change the culture of your high school to stop bullying. If you put your arm around someone who's being bullied for being fat or having a hair lip or whatever ridiculous thing, you can change the culture, because the athletes sit on top of the pyramid. Or it's having Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight boxer who I worked with, cut a public service announcement that says, real men don't hit women. And that could do more to trigger behavioral change in rebellious adolescents than 1,000 authority figures ever could.
Yeah, that's a big difference. You have a few years of experience in this. What advice would you give an up-and-comer sports agent or somebody that wants to be a sports agent?
To be certified by the Players Association of the sport that someone wants to represent. To be a football agent, you need an undergrad degree, a grad degree of some sort. It can be a master's, doesn't have to be law or business school. To take a very difficult test on the collective bargaining agreement, and then follow the rules of that union. In terms of study, and I should mention that we do agent academies, so that you can look at steinbergspeaks.com, and you'll find that we do a jump start to people's careers, where we teach you how to negotiate, how to set up a practice, how to recruit, how to do damage control, how to set up a charitable foundation, and all of that. And we do them a few times a year, so someone can check that out. But the most important study is psychology. Everything involves people. And again, as I said before, if you can get into the heart and mind of another person, I don't care if you're recruiting, if you're negotiating, if you're trying to support a client, it's all about people and their interactions. So if you can figure out why people behave the way they do and what motivates them, you can be successful in this. People who go into agentry usually go to business school, law school, sports management, but you do not have to be an attorney. There's not much law in all of this. It's standard player contracts that are just a big amount of boilerplate. It's the standard representation agreement is written by the union, so there's no changes you can make to it. So it really is that, and so it's understanding how a draft works. It's understanding what the process of scouting is. It's understanding why teams pick players and helping them get through scouting. It's understanding marketing and branding, and but fundamentally, at the bottom line, everything is about people. And if you can master your people skills, that is the most important thing.
And that's a lesson across any business too, just not sports agent. Whatever your business you're in, be a people person, learn people, you're going to do quite well. Let's take Leigh. He's at Cal right now today. Would you still be a sports agent?
Well, I was really originally brought up to sort of be a political activist, and I was student body president at Berkeley when Ronald Reagan was governor, and I learned everything I needed to learn about negotiating from interacting with him when we were demonstrating. And so the power of sports today is so attractive. If I was trying to do things politically, I'd be another person in that field. But the ability to take an athlete and have them fight sex trafficking, or for the environment, or fight against racism and all that, I think is a powerful platform. And I've just done whatever I thought was fun and called it a career. So if I wanted to work on movies, I was able to do that. If I wanted to write a couple of best-selling books, I could do that. Public speaking, I could do that. Charitable foundation. So it really encompasses everything that I thought was fun. Writing, where I've been a columnist, and writing books, giving lectures, and I've spoken on 85 college campuses. So
Wow.
so the goal is, the reason I do that Agent Academy is to educate the next generation of ethical, principled sports professionals that understand the power they have to do good.
You're also giving back too, aren't you, Leigh?
Oh, of course, it's and I have my own causes. I did an anti-racism program where we trained 10,000 young volunteers to fight against racism and anti-Semitism. I did a series of camps where we brought kids and taught them human relations and leadership skills, and a program called the Sporting Green Alliance, which took sustainable technology and wind, solar, recycling, resurfacing, and water to stadia, arena, and practice fields to drop carbon emissions and energy costs and transform them into educational platforms. So means that fans can see a waterless urinal, can see a solar panel, and think about how they put that in their own home or businesses.
This might be a tough question, but my thoughts are going crazy. You've done a lot. What's your favorite thing when you look back that you've done?
Well, the anti-racism program is something that I may do again. My dad had a philosophy, which was that when you wait for someone else to fix a problem, as minor as picking a piece of trash up or as major as racism or climate change, and you keep waiting for the amorphous they or them to solve the problem, he'd look at me and say, "You could wait forever, son. The they is you." So it's just having a sense of responsibility that this is our time, this is our watch, and we have the responsibility for doing everything we can to make a meaningful impact and heal pain in others.
And it sounds like your dad and what you're saying is legacy is really important.
Right. And so my father, I could go home and tell him I'd signed a $1 zillion contract, and he'd say, that's great. But if I told him I set up a charitable program that helped at-risk kids. He'd throw his arms around me.
Man, that's a great dad. You were blessed. Let's talk real quick. We got a few minutes left. Jerry McGuire movie, well known, popular, and all that. And then part of it was scripted because of your life, right? I want to
Well,
misspeak.
you can see it back
Oh
there.
yeah,
Cameron Crowe, the writer-director, came to me in 1993 and asked if he could follow me around for a film that would center on the character of a sports agent. And he had gone underground in a Southern California high school and written a book called Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was a hilarious movie. So I thought this will be fun. And so he followed me to the NFL draft where I had the first pick and came up to the press conference in New England and came to the league meetings where I was trying to sign free agents and came to games with me and came to the Super Bowl and came to my Super Bowl party and spent time in my office. And I told him stories, lots and lots of stories. So he went off and wrote the script, and I was technical advisor. So I had to vet the script to make sure that as a sports fan, you weren't jarred by the look or the dialogue, which you thought was phony. And then I took some of the actors like Cuba Gooding Jr. I took him down to the Super Bowl in Phoenix and made him pretend he was a wide receiver for a week. So I put him in the role. Actually, I had to show the quarterback in the film, played by Jerry O'Connell, how to throw a spiral because he had gone to NYU and they didn't have a football program.
right.
So, it's been 25 years of going out to an airport or having lunch or dinner somewhere and someone running up to the table and either saying those 4 words to me or asking me to say the 4 words that start with "show me the."
That's great. Leigh, that's fantastic. And not a better lead actor to do that part either, to play Leigh Steinberg. You're blessed. It's great. Well, we ran out of time on the show. I want to thank you so much for being on. People learn a little bit more about you, but what I love is your servant heart. As successful as you are, and gonna be even more, you're giving back, and that's what I want people to see. That's what I promote, and I really appreciate you doing that.
I think the problem is situational ethics in a way, where someone is very nice to cats and dogs, is a good neighbor, and goes out in the workplace and uses heinous social Darwin tactics, because after all, it's just business. I think you have to have a consistent set of values that you use in every aspect of your life.
I love it. Well, Leigh, thank you. Audience, take a look at this. You're going to learn a lot. We laughed, we enjoyed, we learned great things, and I hope to see you all in the next episode.